There's something primal about our fear of fog. It's that deep, ancient unease you get when the world you know just gets swallowed up by this silent white haze. And, as it turns out, that chilling feeling, it's not just in your head.
So, what is it exactly? I mean, is it really just about not being able to see very far? Or is there something else going on when that mist rolls in? Well, we're going to dig into that, using a few truly chilling first-hand accounts to break down what exactly makes fog so terrifying.
And right here, this is the key. See, the real horror of the fog, it isn't about some monster hiding in the mist. It's how the fog itself takes apart your reality, piece by piece. It steals your sight, messes with sound, completely wrecks your sense of direction, and leaves you totally alone in a world that just doesn't make sense anymore.
Okay, so the first thing that happens, the first stage of this whole breakdown is just complete disorientation. It kicks in the moment the fog just wipes away everything familiar, turning what should be a simple trip into a total nightmare. Let's take a look at how this went down for the people in these stories.
So this first quote comes from a guy driving on a super lonely part of Highway 101 up in Northern California. He said the fog was so thick it felt like a solid wall around his car. And just like that, the road he knew was gone. No landmarks to guide him, no way to judge distance, absolutely no clue what was right in front of him. It's pure sensory deprivation.
And it's the exact same kind of thing for a college student out on a run she knew like the back of her hand. She was absolutely certain about this path. I mean, she'd run it 1,000 times before. It was a simple 3-mile loop. No forks, no other trails. Easy. But the fog, well, the fog had its own version of reality. A trail that just never ended. She's 3 miles in, should be back at her car, but instead, she's still deep in the woods. The impossible was happening.
All right, so once the fog has you completely turned around, making you doubt everything you see and hear, that's when stage 2 kicks in. Something, or someone, appears in the mist, and whatever it is, it doesn't play by the rules. For our driver on Highway 101, it was a person, a figure. First he sees a man just standing there on the shoulder of the road, super weirdly still. Then, maybe 10 minutes later, he sees the same man again, but now he's way up the road, ahead of the car. And that's impossible. There are no exits on this stretch. The terror just keeps building until suddenly he's trapped. There's a figure in front of him blocking the road and another one creeping up on his car from behind. There's just no logical way this could be happening.
But, the threat isn't always something you see. Sometimes what you hear is so much worse, because your mind is left to paint this terrifying picture of what's out there making that sound.
Remember our runner, the one lost on that never-ending trail? Well, she started to hear something. She called it a drone. Not really a moan, not quite a siren, just this low, wavering sound that did not sound human at all. And here's the absolute worst part. It was pacing her. No matter how fast she ran, the sound stayed right with her. It felt intelligent, like some malicious thing she just could not escape.
Then you've got these two experienced kayakers out on the water in Washington's Willapa Bay. They heard something too. It was the sound of oars, not paddles like their kayaks had, and it was shadowing them. It was creepy. It never got any closer, but it never got any farther away either. And every time they changed course, the sound changed with them perfectly. They managed to catch just one quick look, a single person in a rowboat, before the mist swallowed it up again. And then, when the fog finally lifted, it was just gone.
Okay, so now we get to the part of each of these stories that makes them so unbelievably chilling. This is the moment where any rational explanation you could come up with, any attempt to say, oh, it was just a trick of the mind, gets completely blown apart by cold, hard, physical proof.
And for every single person here, this was the turning point. The driver, right? He tried to tell himself he just imagined the whole thing. But then he gets home, and there's a huge dent in his rear bumper. The runner thought, okay, my GPS watch must be broken. But the proof was the trail itself. It was one single path. There was nowhere else for her to go. And the kayakers? They tried to write it off as just another boater. But then they find that exact rowboat pulled up on the shore with a fresh set of wet footprints leading away from it and into the woods.
So, what's the big takeaway here? When the impossible is suddenly proven to be real, what do? What happens in your head? This is the final stage, and honestly, maybe the most terrifying one. The moment your entire understanding of reality just collapses. You could almost call it a kind of environmental gaslighting. It's not some person trying to mess with your head. It's the environment itself making you feel like you're going crazy. The fog sets up this impossible situation where your own eyes, your logic, your memory, they all scream one thing, But the physical evidence screams something completely different. It makes you question everything, especially your own sanity.
And that feeling, that breakdown, man, it sticks with you. For one of the kayakers, that one single morning haunted him for 6 years. He just kept replaying it in his head, over and over, trying so hard to find an explanation that made sense, and he never could. The mystery just stayed with him.
And that brings us to the driver's final thoughts on the matter. That physical damage to his car, it meant he couldn't just explain it away. He couldn't pretend it was a dream or that he was just seeing things. He was basically forced to accept that something impossible and something that felt malicious really did happen to him out there in the fog that night.
And that's really the question the fog leaves you with, isn't it? When the world itself seems to be actively trying to trick you, to defy all logic, it takes away the one thing you rely on most to survive, your own perception. And if you can't even trust what you see and what you know, then what can you trust?